their wives. And during the mix and mingle, Kennedy asked the astronauts, "Do you think we could land on the moon?" They said, "Sure, absolutely. You never say no to a president." When they left the White House, they said, "Is this guy nuts? Crazy? Land on the moon?" Lyndon B. Johnson, bigger than life. He moved the mountain. He made the greatest contribution to our country on the domestic side in the last half of the 20th century. He had been majority leader in the Senate. He knew every man's price. He knew where all the bodies were buried. In his first 2 years in office, on the tail end of the Kennedy assassination, he was able to ram through Congress Medicare, the Civil Rights Act, voting rights for blacks for the first time in the South, federal aid to education at all levels from Head Start through college, public housing, national parks, environmental laws, you name it. After pushing civil rights, some of his Southern cronies came to him and complained, "What is this, Lyndon? When you were in the Senate, you were one of us. You were a Southerner." He said, "I'm president now, president of all the people." Vietnam War, of course, was his undoing, his denouement. He listened to the generals who told him what he wanted to hear. There was another war on the home front, widespread daily protests, unbearable. "Hey, hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today?" Richard Nixon always had two roads to go. Always took the wrong road. He did make the breakthrough trip to China, divide and conquer, knowing the hostility between the two communist giants, Soviet Union and China. But his dark side prevailed, and the Watergate scandal consumed him, made him the first president in American history to be forced to resign from office. I don't waste my sympathy on presidents. They die for the jobs. They collect an obscene amount of money, and they make promises to their bankrollers that they can't keep, and rarely are they true profiles in courage that we hope they will be. The late President Gerald Ford stepped into the presidency that he never sought. He wanted to be Speaker of the House. He restored confidence in the White House in the aftermath of Watergate, and he told us that the long national nightmare was over. But his pardon of Richard Nixon, 1 month after Ford took office, did not sit well with the voters. Jimmy Carter made human rights the centerpiece of his foreign policy. He has won the Nobel Peace Prize. He is honored as a past president. He is in demand all over the world to settle disputes because they know he'll be fair. Ronald Reagan turned the country to the right. Although he had been 6 times president of the Screen Actors Guild, he fired 13,000 striking air controllers with a stroke of the pen and not a flicker of an eyelash. He said government was the problem, not the solution. He did start an arms race with the economically staggering Soviet Union, which did help to end the Cold War, with the help, of course, of Mikhail Gorbachev, who opened the window a bit, the Pope, blue jeans, rap music, exchange students, exchange teachers, and so forth. George H.W. Bush, 41, liberated Kuwait in the first Gulf War. He had the good sense not to go on to Baghdad after victory over Iraq on grounds that there might be a civil war. House-to-house fighting, imagine that. He lost his bid for re-election because of the downbeat economy. Bill Clinton, consummate politician, worked for peace in the Balkans, Northern Ireland, Middle East, but he tarnished his office with an affair with an intern. He did leave a surplus in the Treasury that's now been dissipated by the war. He never had the courage to take the big steps for peace, which makes for greatness in presidents. He won't wind up on Mount Rushmore. President Bush, simple philosophy, black and white, with us or against us, good and evil, dead or alive. He has hurt his party and the country with a pointless, mindless war. He broke down the wall of separation of church and state. He's made end runs around the Constitution. 700 more signing statements saying that he will not obey the law he just signed. He's appointed an Attorney General who says he just can't decide whether waterboarding is torture, which is simulated drowning. Well, no president has ever liked the press, dating back to George Washington. I wasn't covering him, but much